I was talking to Shane. I know a lot of people also use Google as a primary space, but this is something that I personally use for Outlook and using a Word document. So this is an example of something that I've sent out. Bryce, I steal a lot of your templates when you forward me things because I think they're really good. So this was something I actually took from you this past fall. When and there are certain seasons that I have different templates, and I'm happy to share those and hear more from you guys to see what really works. But this is an example just to see who's ready to start hiring for fall. And then I copy and paste my signature in here from Outlook or my Gmail. So when this is something that I want to send, I just created a template for in Excel. This is generally much larger, but I just wanted to use some people that were in the office now just to use as an example, and I've called this just like Excel doc test. So once you're in a Microsoft account and you have an email that you've drafted and you really like it and you want to send it out to a large group of people instead of BCCing them on everything, like I can make this actually very personalized if I want. So how I have on here, like their first names, I can have this actually say, you know, like hello Shelly or hello Shane. So it looks like I'm sending it to very specific people or just you, so you feel a little bit more special. And that's just something that we can do. So I'll show you guys how I normally do it. So when you're in Word, you'll just go up to mailings and you'll go to select recipient and then use from an existing list. So this is a list that you've already set up in Excel. So the list that I have, I saved it onto my desktop, and it's the Excel test doc, and it's on sheet 1. So I can go in there now and edit my recipient list from up here. So let's say, like, okay, I actually don't want to send this to Shane because I just emailed him yesterday, so I'm just going to take that off. And I can go through and see which ones I want included on this email, and then hit OK there. For here, right up on top here, I can insert a merge field. So let's say right here I want to insert, so these are the headers from my Excel document. If I want to insert the first name, I can insert that there so that every time this goes out, it'll say hello first name. And then something you just want to be sure is that like you have an appropriate space, so it's not hello first name and it's all together, or there's like weird spaces after the comma. So that's one way to personalize it. And then when you are ready to get this out and going, right up here you click on Finish and Merge, send email messages, and you'll send this to, again, these are the headers from the Excel document. You'll send it to the email, and the subject line could be like anything that you'd want it to be. So sometimes I'll put like interns, or normally I'm pretty popular with interns if anyone has another suggestion for subjects. This is generally just for the employers that I work with already. But if you can also use this for if you start creating lead lists and you want it to say something more specific, or if you're reaching out to your students, or I have an ongoing list of all of my students I've already placed. If I want to send them a message, or my active students, if nothing's going on, I can send them all a message at once. And then when you're ready to send the email messages, you hit OK, and then that'll all start to go out. And then a way that you can see that it's all going out is I'll check my, like you can see it's actually going out from my outbox, and it'll also be in my sent email messages, so I can see that they've all received it, and I can see also what email looks like. So here, Sean just got an email from me, and it says, hello, Sean, hope all is well, can't believe fall is here, and that sort of information. So now it all actually looks very personalized. As easy as that. Questions, comments, additions, thoughts?
I'll add, this is Amar. Love mail merges. I recently used another use case. This was kind of interesting. I was seeing how this could work, but what I did was I gave I sent an email to all current employers and said, hey, we have a new system that you can now manage it yourself. And this email address is associated with it, and the email, like the password is DCI123. If it doesn't work, no worries, just hit forget password and reset it, and go in there and update your own internships and start kind of messing with that yourself so that you can add more internships. You can see what we're currently sharing
And then you would add like a option here for like, this is their email address, so then you would insert that for like, this is your email, this is your password.
It's the same like email that I'm sending them to. I'm just saying, this is your username and this is your password. Go in there and mess with it. And I got probably like 5 or 6 people that were like, oh, this is really great, going in now to update it. I don't know how many people actually updated, but hopefully there was some kind of cleanup that happened without me having to go in there and update it personally.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a little bit of a hat trick. You've got certain people that really respond to that kind of let me manage it, and you've got other people who are like, you know, ease of use, you do it for me, but to sort of figure out what steps for each, it sounds like a good idea.
Right. How do you know, like, sometimes, like, in the master record is one email and in delivery code is another email. So it's like, how do you know? Do you just assume or you guess that there was? Because if it's not the right email, they might be like, oh, well, the password, and then it's just not working. Then you email them back and be like, oh, like the email you just associated with the login is this email.
Well, part of the reason that I did it was I got like 75 bounce back emails as well. So that was also a good place to be able to see, okay, these are the companies I need to follow up with that like has someone else has changed or someone else is new or whatever is going to happen. So it gives me like an immediate lead list to follow up with.
It seems like I'm building on that thought, you know, at the end of the program, it may not, when you're going after employers again, it may not be a bad idea to sort of say, do I have the right information for your firm, and do a mass mailing so they help you clean up the database. I know that Shelley found a very large percentage of her current internships were outdated. The info was outdated. She was using LinkedIn, and you had to do a lot of work, but maybe a mass emailing to, you know, sort of shake the trees a bit, and you'd probably get a handful, 10%, saying, no, you know, Janice is no longer with the firm, and help you with that research.
Yeah, and sometimes in the bounce backs, it automatically tells you, hey, the person who's replaced me is X person. Nice. So that's helpful. You can just go in, and then that gives you a warm lead to be able to follow up with.
I mean, that could be useful for you at some point, Ashley. I know you have an intro letter going out, but at some point, if you've got another 50 companies to contact, that might be a way to flesh some of it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Hey, this is Eric. I'll just throw on one little add-on. One is I love MailMerge. You know, really feeling comfortable and knowing how to use it is, I think, key to success. And then in relation to the email that I sent yesterday and then the week before about, hey, just keeping regular contact up, I know I got a couple of inquiries of like, oh, no, I'm sending this group email or it's a BCC. And MailMerge is a cheap and easy way to make it look like it's personalized so that the recipient receives it and feels like, oh, great, this is nice. So-and-so reached out directly and personally to me without it, without you doing a lot of work to have to individually type every email, or now you got to do something 30 times because you have 30 active students. And so that's, you know, another great reason for, you know, being equipped and skilled with how to use MailMerge.
Thank you, Eric. Can you confirm that when you use MailMerge in this way, all the emails that are coming from Sugar database will in fact be logged in Sugar, and so they won't show up in email from you as being uncontacted?
Yeah, I think the only example where it wasn't, and Emma brought this to my attention yesterday, where she had a group of people in a BCC, and those emails didn't get associated, and I think it's because they were blind carbon copied and in a group, and so it's not set to, you know, look at emails in those fields. But as long as you're sending an email to a participant and that participant's email address matches what's either a participant or an employer, rather, matches what we have into Sugar, you know, we'll see a history of those communications.
Great. What kind of issues have people had using mass email? Sort of F-ups or problems? Anything, or is it always going smoothly?
No, I had one that made me cry.
Shelley likes to talk about one that made her cry. What did you do?
No, well, I made a very large mistake. So when just because you hit a cell does not mean that they're not going to get emailed. So I went through and instead of deleting cells, I was just hiding them, and then I sent a mail merge to and this was specific to New York because it was when we had New York 1 and New York 2, so I actually emailed every single one, even like students that I wasn't managing, so I emailed employers that weren't mine saying that your intern was starting on this day, and most of them were not, and most of them had no idea who I was. So that was an awkward
So, and the lessons that we can learn from that moment in time for you is to hide a column is doing nothing. They, in fact, will get
They will still get it if you hide
it. But when you uncheck it, like you just showed, that will make
take
them off.
Yes. Okay.
Just to clarify what Eric was saying there, he's saying like if you send an email to a participant in your Outlook, is he saying that just like a general communication email, that is now going to show in Sugar?
My understanding is it always has.
Yes, yeah.
All right,
and not only participants, but in employers as well. So if you have a employer relationship, then that will show too.
But that's a new feature this year, right, Eric? This is a recent feature.
Yeah, as of that email sent on, October 25th. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's really cool. You don't have to do anything special. I know Salesforce, you have to set up your account specifically to have Salesforce capture that, so that's really cool.
Yeah, and the other thing is we have a lot of automated emails, and I know this was a problem too, which is like, hey, where's a record or inventory? Did they get the welcome email? Did they get the placement email? Did they get those things? And those are automated emails that we couldn't see, and now we have the ability to at least say, hey, the task fired and the email was or wasn't, but in most cases was delivered.
Where did the record show up in Sugar?
It takes a little bit of time, but a few minutes maybe. I mean, it's got to kind of work through the internet to kind of get updated.
I'm going into Sugar now.
Yeah. So the question actually is, where does it show up?
Yeah, and I can get into the training a little bit, and we can kind of poke around into that. But and then I showed it in the video too that shows under contacts. There's a sub-panel called emails, and it will show up under there.
Cool. Great. Before we move on to Sugar, does anybody have any other good reasons, topics to be sending out mass email? We have introductions of new reps into a territory. We have cleaning up a database, Shelley changing her name, and getting reconnected after the full season. Are there any other occasions where mass email has worked for you guys?
Bryce, the holidays is a really good one just to touch base, maybe even dropping them just a hello just for the sake of saying hello, and then as kind of Shelley touched upon, like the different seasons, so like the fall, spring, summer, and then also too, like a last effort, for any of the programs that are about to be closing, and in terms of, finishing up the placement, it's good to kind of touch base with your employers just to see who, if any, employers still have availabilities left, even though you might be only a few weeks out from the program actually starting. So those are a few times that I use.
Seems like a great idea. Any others? I had one last question, which is, does anybody have any best practices where they have found they're getting really good responses on their mass emails that they want to share?
I think timing is important. Like, I avoid Monday morning because everyone's catching up from the weekend, and I avoid Fridays because everyone wants to get out of the office for the weekend. So whenever I send out a mass mail email, I always wait until either like Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe like afternoon before lunch, like more in the morning, and I think that I get more response. I think I get more response when I send things out during that time of the day and the week.
I would have to keep it short. I think a lot of people are reading emails on the subway or, on their smartphones. So it's just a way to start a communication, maybe not to tell everything in that first email. What is a good response on a mass email? Do you guys get like a 5% response rate? Do you?
It depends what it is. I would say that usually the response rate is pretty good, maybe about 20%.
What would be an example of a good 20% response rate? What would be the topic?
So I would say 20% would be, like, even if I send a message for the holidays, for example, that says like, hey, happy holidays, also wanted to let you know, if you haven't received any resumes yet, you'd like me to receive them in just after the new year, once again, we appreciate blah, 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 blah. Like, I'll usually get 20% of response just on that, and when I'm not even asking a question. People will just be like, I'll get responses such as like, thanks very much, look forward to hearing from you, like I'll get stuff like that.
Cool.
Which is like, because sometimes like, it's worth sending a message and actually not ask for a response. Like sometimes I do that. Which is like, I'm not asking a question, I'm just sort of like giving you information to let you know like that's what's going to happen,
Well, I like what you just said about giving information. One of the goals is to make these employers look really good. And if you have information that can help them, and as some of you put like tips on, making a really good internship, make it project-based, beginning, middle, end kind of messaging is really smart. Anything we can do to make them look good. Did you want to sort of close this up? Good. So any more questions for Shelley?